Hello dear students, welcome to the biology online class. So in this video we are going to learn about the first chapter, that is reproduction in organisms. And we are all known that it is one of the important character of living organisms, right? Coming to the definition, reproduction, it is a biological process in which new young ones are produced from their parents. Means in this process new individuals are produced. New individuals are produced. Moving on to the next point, each and every organism can live only for a certain period of time, and this period from birth to natural death of an organism is called as lifespan. Once again I'll repeat, lifespan is nothing but it is the period from birth to natural death. So natural death is important. So birth to natural death of an organism is called as lifespan. So in this slide I have included the approximate lifespan of some of the organisms. For example, rose, its lifespan is 5 to 7 years. Rice plant, 3 to 7 months. Banyan tree, 400 plus years. Banana tree, 2 to 3 years. Dog, 22 years. Butterfly, 1 to 2 weeks. Fruit fly, 2 weeks. Parrot, 140 years. Crocodile, 60 years. Horse, 40 to 50 years. Tortoise, 100 to 150 years. Crow, 15 years. Cow, 22 years. And elephant, 50 to 70 years. So these are the approximate lifespan of different organisms, and these are about the definition of reproduction and lifespan. So reproduction is nothing but it's the biological process in which new young ones are produced from their parents, whereas lifespan means it is the period from birth to natural death of an organism. Am I clear? Okay, moving on to the next slide, that is about the types of reproduction. Based on the number of participants, reproduction is categorized into two types. Once again I'll repeat, based on the number of participants, reproduction is categorized into two types. They are asexual and sexual. So coming to the first type, that is asexual reproduction. What do you mean by asexual reproduction? When offsprings are formed from a single parent, then the type of reproduction is called as asexual. Once again I'll repeat, asexual reproduction means when offsprings are produced from a single parent, and because of the involvement of single parent, this asexual reproduction, it is also called as uniparental type of reproduction. Uniparental means single parent. Okay, so that is about the definition of asexual. And what do you mean by sexual? Okay, in asexual, it involves only one parent. The reproduction process involves only one parent, whereas in sexual reproduction, it involves two parents. That means the offsprings are produced from two parents, and because of the involvement of two parents, the sexual reproduction is also called as biparental type of reproduction. Okay, so asexual means it involves single parent, and because of that nature, asexual reproduction is called as uniparental mode of reproduction, whereas sexual means it involves two parents, hence it is called as biparental type of reproduction. Am I clear? So this is about the definition. Coming to the characters, sexual reproduction It involves the formation of male and female gametes either by the same individual or by the different individuals of the opposite sex, and it results in offsprings that are not identical to the parents or amongst themselves. So, in asexual reproduction, what happens is it involves only one parent, right? So, all the offsprings are identical to the parent as well as amongst themselves. They are identical to the parent and identical to each other. But in sexual reproduction, because of the involvement of two parents, it results in the offsprings that are not identical to the parents or amongst themselves, and hence they are not called as clones. Whereas in asexual reproduction, the offsprings are called as clones, whereas here in sexual reproduction, the offsprings are not called as clones. And it is also called as biparental type of reproduction. Why? Because it involves two parents for the process. Am I clear? So this is about the character of sexual reproduction. Coming to the stages of life cycle and lifespan is entirely different. All the organisms have to reach certain stage of growth and maturity in their life cycle before they can reproduce sexually. They are juvenile phase, reproductive phase and senescence phase. Okay, so under life cycle, each and every organism possesses three stages: juvenile phase, that is the first phase, the second phase is reproductive phase, and the third phase is senescent phase. Okay, what do you mean by juvenile phase? In animals, the period of growth between their birth up to their reproductive maturity is called as juvenile phase. Once again, I'll repeat. In animals, the period of growth between their birth up to their reproductive maturity, from birth up to their reproductive maturity, is called as juvenile phase. And this juvenile phase in plants is called as vegetative phase. In animals, it is called as juvenile phase, whereas in plants, instead of juvenile phase, it is called as vegetative phase. So vegetative phase is nothing but it is the phase between their birth up to their reproductive maturity. Am I clear? So that is about the first stage of life cycle. Moving on to the second stage, that is the reproductive phase. When the organisms start reproducing sexually, the phase is called as reproductive phase. That means during this phase, the organisms have the ability to reproduce sexually. Okay, and that phase is called as a reproductive phase, and this is the second phase of life cycle. And next to the reproductive phase, the third stage is senescence phase, and this phase is also called as aging phase, and it is the last phase of the life cycle. The efficiency of all the body organs and the tissues decreases during this phase, and chances of catching diseases increases. Thus, natural death may occur due to the defunctioning of the vital organs. So, senescence phase is nothing but the aging phase, and it is the last phase of the life cycle. During this phase, what happens is the efficiency, the working power of all the organs and the tissues decreases, and chances of catching diseases increases. Because of that, the natural death may occur due to the defunctioning of the vital organs. Am I clear? So these are the stages of life cycle in organisms. Based on the lifespan, the plants are grouped into three types. They are annuals, biennials and perennials. So these are the groups of plants based on the lifespan. Am I clear? So now what do you mean by annuals? So annuals means these are the plants which is living for only one growing season. These are the groups of plants which living for only one growing season. That means it completes its life cycle in one season. Hence it is called as annuals. Okay. The second group is biennials. Biennials means these are the plants which completes their life cycles within 2 years. That means starts flowering in second year of the growth and completes its life cycle within 2 years. Whereas perennials means these are the plants that live for a number of years. Okay. So based on the lifespan, there are three types of plants: annuals, biennials and perennials. Annuals means the plants living for only one growing season or completes its life cycle in 1 year. Whereas biennials means these are the groups of plants complete their life cycle within 2 years and starts flowering in second year of the growth. Whereas perennials means the plants that live for a number of years. So these are the groups of plants based on the lifespan. Am I clear? Is there any doubt? Okay. Moving on to the next slide. Based on the breeding season, mammals are of two types. Breeding season. Based on the breeding season, mammals are of two types. They are seasonal breeders and continuous breeders. Now, what do you mean by seasonal breeders? The animals reproduce only during the favorable season are called as seasonal breeders. Once again, I'll repeat the point. The animals reproduce only during the favorable season. For example, frog, lizard, cow, buffalo, etc. These are the animals reproduce only during the favorable season. Hence, they are called as seasonal breeders. Whereas continuous breeders means the animals actively reproduce throughout their reproductive phase. Seasonal breeders depends on the favorable seasons for their breeding process. But continuous breeders actively reproduce throughout their reproductive phase. And examples for continuous breeders are man, mice, rabbit and poultry birds, etc. So seasonal breeders and continuous breeders are the types of mammals based on the breeding season. Is that clear? Okay, we'll move on to the next point. That is about the reproductive cycles. The females of placental mammals exhibit cyclical changes in the ovaries, accessory ducts and hormones during the reproductive phase. So what happens during reproductive phase? The animal starts reproducing sexually. That means here during the reproductive phase, sexual reproduction takes place, right? So during that process, what happens is the females of the placental mammals exhibit some of the cyclical changes in the ovaries, in the accessory ducts as well as in the hormones. Such cyclical changes are called as reproductive cycles. Okay, the cyclical changes which occur in the females of the placental mammals are called as reproductive cycles. And there are two types of reproductive cycles. They are oestrus cycle and menstrual cycle. So these are important. What do you mean by oestrus cycle? So the reproductive cycle or the cyclical changes occur in the non-primate females, then it is called as oestrus cycle. If the reproductive cycle or if the cyclical changes occurs in the non-primate female organism, then it is called as oestrus cycle. Whereas menstrual cycle means the cyclical changes occur in the primate females. Oestrus means cyclical changes in non-primate females, whereas menstrual means the cyclical changes occur in the primate females. Examples for oestrus cycle: cow, sheep, rat, deer, etc. And for menstrual cycle: monkeys, apes, humans, etc. Am I clear? So reproductive cycle, it is nothing but during reproductive phase, some of the cyclical changes occur in the primate mammals, in the placental mammals, in the ovaries, accessory ducts, and in the hormones. So these are about the different groups of plants as well as animals based on different categories. Moving on to the next concept, that is events in sexual reproduction or stages in sexual reproduction. The sexual reproduction, as I said before, it is called as biparental type of reproduction because for the process of reproduction it requires two parents. Now let us see the stages of sexual reproduction. It involves three main stages. They are pre-fertilization event, fertilization event, and post-fertilization event. Now in the coming slides, we'll study one by one. The first event is pre-fertilization event. The event prior to the fusion of gametes. So for the process of sexual reproduction, it involves the gametes. And there are two types of gametes, male gamete and female gamete. So male gamete is called as sperm and the female gamete is called as the egg. So pre-fertilization means it is the process takes place before the fusion of gametes. And this pre-fertilization event, it includes two processes, gametogenesis and gamete transfer. Okay, under pre-fertilization, it involves two processes, gametogenesis and gamete transfer. So what do you mean by gametogenesis? Gametogenesis means it is the formation of male and female gametes. The process of formation of male and female gametes is called as gametogenesis. And these gametes are haploid cells, or they are also called as sex cells. And gametes are of two types. They are homogametes and heterogametes. What is the meaning of homogamete? Homo means similar Here the gametes are similar. So in homogametic condition, both the gametes are similar. Hence they are also called as isogametes. For example, in some algae like Cladophora, the gametes are morphologically similar. Hence they are called as isogametes. Whereas the second type of gamete is called as heterogametes. Hetero means different. So here the gametes are different. They are morphologically dissimilar. And the male gamete is here called as sperm, or it is also called as antherozooid, and the female gamete is called as egg or ovum. For example, human beings. So in this picture you can clearly observe the homogametes and heterogametes. The homogametes, they are also called as isogametes, and they are similar, right? So in this picture you can clearly observe the homo as well as heterogametes. In homogametes, both the gametes are similar, whereas in heterogametes the gametes are different. And here the male gamete, these are the male gametes, and they are called as antherozooids or the sperms, and this is the female gamete, which is called as egg or the ovum. Understood? Okay, moving on to the next slide, that is about the sexuality in organisms. Based on this, there are two categories, bisexual as well as unisexual. If male and female reproductive structures are present in the same individual, then it is called as bisexual. Once again I'll repeat, if male and the female reproductive structures present in the same individual, then the condition is called as bisexual. For example, in hibiscus. So in hibiscus flower, it contains both the male sex organ, that is the stamen, as well as the female sex organ, that is pistil. So here both the sex organs are produced in the same structure, okay, and or same individual. Hence the condition is called as bisexual. In flowering plants, the male flower is called as staminate, which bears the stamens, and the female flower is known as pistillate because it bears the pistils. If male and female flowers are present on same plant, it is called as monoecious. Once again I'll repeat the terms: bisexual, staminate, pistillate and monoecious. So bisexual means if the male and the female reproductive structures are produced in a same individual, then the condition is called as bisexual. Okay. For example, in hibiscus flower, it contains both the male as well as the female reproductive structure. Hence, hibiscus, it is a bisexual flower. Okay. In flowering plants, the male flower is called as the staminate. Staminate flower means it contains only the stamens, whereas the female flower is called as pistillate. Pistillate is nothing but it bears only the female reproductive structure, that means pistils. If these two flowers, that means the male flower and the female flowers, are present on the same plant, then that plant is called as monoecious. So monoecious means it contains both male and female flowers. For example, in cucurbits, cucurbit means cucumber family, and in coconuts, the condition is here monoecious, means it contains male flower as well as female flowers, but these two flowers are born on the same plant. But this bisexual condition in animals, it is called as hermaphrodites. Hermaphrodites are nothing but bisexual condition in animals. So what do you mean by bisexual, or what do you mean by hermaphrodites? If the male and the female reproductive structures are present in a same animal or in the same individual, then the condition is called as hermaphrodite. For example, earthworms, leech, sponge, tapeworm, etc. In these organisms, hermaphrodite condition is seen. Is that clear? And the next category is unisexual. The male and the female reproductive structures are present on the different individuals. So bisexual means both the reproductive structures are present on the same individual. But in unisexual condition, the male and the female reproductive structures are present on two different individuals. If male and female flowers are present on different plant, then the plant is called as dioecious. So what do you mean by monoecious? Monoecious means if the male flower and the female flower are produced on the same plant, then the condition is called as monoecious. But if the male and the female flowers are produced on two different plants, then the condition is called as dioecious. For example, in papaya you can see the male and the female plant, right? As well as in date palm also. And unisexuality condition in animals we can observe in cockroaches and in higher animals. And fungi, it may be homothallic. It is one of the microorganism, and it may be homothallic. Homothallic is nothing but bisexual, or heterothallic. Heterothallic is nothing but unisexual. In plants, we are using the terms homothallic and heterothallic. Thallic means thallus, plant body. So these are the two categories, bisexual as well as unisexual. Coming to the next point, cell division during gamete formation. Now, under pre-fertilization event, the main process are gametogenesis and gamete transfer, right? So gametogenesis means it is nothing but the formation of male and female gametes. Now what happens? How these gametes are formed? Many monothens, fungi, algae and bryophytes have haploid parental body. So for example, in one algae, the plant body is haploid, and they produce haploid gametes by mitosis. As I said before, the gametes are haploid cells, correct? If the plant body is haploid, then the gametes are produced by the mitosis division, because during mitosis the same number of chromosomes are transferred to formed in the offsprings, right? But in pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms and in some animals, they have diploid parental body. That means for the formation of gamete, it requires meiosis division. So if the parental body is haploid, then it undergoes mitosis for the formation of gametes. But if the parental body is diploid, then the parental body undergoes meiosis to produce the haploid gamete.